Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast, and it is good to be with you guys for another episode of the stream. We have, as you can tell, a full cast on this show. Matty is back. The Thunder are obviously playing basketball right now. So first things first, if you see Matty distracted, it's not for the simple fact that he's drinking alcohol currently right now. It's actually the fact that he's watching the Thunder basketball game as the Manely Broncos stream is happening, which is probably going to end up being Brandon and I in probably about like the next 30 minutes when the Nuggets play the Golden State Warriors.
7-1 Nuggets.
Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah.
With the best player on the planet.
Yeah.
In Jokic, like the fact he didn't win MVP last year is baffling.
Thank you.
Anybody that says otherwise doesn't know ball. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for hopping on with us. Again, we want to welcome any new and old and current listeners, to the show. We want to say thank you again. First things first, obviously, we like to let you guys know that if you guys are watching on Twitter, thank you first and foremost. But sadly, if you guys have any comments that you would like to share, those comments will not be shared. Gone are the days of when Matty and I were growing this Manely Broncos thing through Periscope. And those days are gone. We are now on the YouTube stream level. So go over to the MHRT Network page, subscribe, and go chime in the comments. Or if you feel like commenting on the Manely Broncos podcast Facebook page or the MHRT Network Facebook page, you guys can go there, obviously both of those pages. But first and foremost, though, thank you guys so much for hopping in with us. And one last thing, of course, is, and it'll be the only time I mention this during the show, is we do have super chats. But feel free to basically give us the money that you feel is capable for yourself. I'm not trying to force it upon you. You need to give, to what you feel is in your heart to give. So I'm not going to put too much on you. And then lastly, before we jump into our conversation of the day, we want to say thank you. And I know both Brandon, Matty, and I, we want to say thank you to Michael Carminelli over there on Twitter for giving us quite the review on social media and listening to our podcast. We want to say thank you for those really good comments, and we definitely enjoy doing them for sure.
I think you mispronounced his name. I think it's Carmelini. Yeah.
Now we're gonna get a really good review.
Yeah, I know you messed it up. You had one job, but no, for real, thank you. I don't know. I can't tell if it goes by Michael or Mike because his @ is Mike, but that was a fantastic review, and we really love to hear that you like it. So thank you. And speaking of Mike, actually, Big Mike, I'm just going to say this without Cameron's permission. When I joined this studio right before we went live, I just happened to join, and Cam is in the middle of singing the Eagles Christmas album alone, and he didn't realize that I was going to be here. So that was.
I knew you were going to be here because we obviously recorded.
Did you? But you didn't know I was going to be here that early, so you didn't realize that I would hear you do that. I wish I recorded it, but I was not able to.
Yeah. Well, Matty, it is nice to have you. What's been going on, buddy? I mean, you're obviously watching the Thunder right now. But what else is new, man?
So I'm in this new job. I just moved to Omaha at the end of summer. I'm in an office with 3 people. Lowest ranking person and the highest ranking person just left like last week. We don't have a replacement in line for him. The person second in line who slid over is leaving in a month. No replacement for him either. So I'm learning my job and both of their jobs and trying not to let the building catch on fire, So I'm learning that. I'm enrolled in college courses. Next week, I am going to be in a project management professional boot camp. And then first week of December, I am going to Washington, D.C. for professional military leadership education. And so I'll be gone for a week, but I've got like a lot of like read aheads and stuff I got to do for that. So like I'm learning a lot, and all I want to do is just drink whiskey and watch sports and talk with my boys. So
that's right.
I don't have to do any of that other stuff, but the things I want right now for the next hour or so, and really pumped to be back on with you guys.
Yeah, and you know that door's always open. Welcome to everybody that is in the chat. Biggie Bronco is in the chat. Bawana Beast, John is in the chat. Big Mike is in. I see a Matty Mulls in here in the chat. Boy,
I'm everywhere tonight.
Matty, is this you, or is this like a Matt Canada burner over here?
You got me. I'm sitting there thinking of ways to scheme up small hands Pickett. How to get George Pickens 2 catches for -1 yards and lose a fantasy team a game last week. So, yeah, you got me. Caught red-handed.
I was gonna say, and then obviously George Pickens. You're forcing George Pickens to basically unfollow Mike Tomlin and basically the entire Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, but George Pickens, if you bring your foot down at any point in those 18 inches between where you caught the ball and the out of bounds section of the field labeled with the gigantic white line, that would have been a touchdown. So,
oh my gosh, so tilted, and had all the money in DraftKings on him.
You guys see? Please tell me you saw that play and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right.
I could have got both feet down. Like that's how insane it was. But.
You guys ready to jump into it?
Sure.
All right. So this is going to sound a little bit familiar to some of the conversation, but we're going to wrap this all into a midseason recap. But the reason why I say some of it's going to sound familiar is Sean Payton, I will say, for the very first time in what seems like forever, or really even since the 5th-year option stuff came out in terms of that one wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy. It truly felt like this is the first time we heard possibly what the intentions are for the Denver Broncos, and especially that number 10 wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy, where he basically mentioned that Jerry Jeudy is an integral part of this team. He's an integral part of the offense, and more importantly, he's an integral part of their future plans. Now, obviously, we know, not to put too much politics into this, in terms of when coaches speak to the media. Coaches do say things. We don't necessarily know what it means for the future of this team, in essence, for Jerry Jeudy. But to go back to what I just prefaced in the early part of this, it was one of the first times we had heard him speak specifically about the future of Jerry Jeudy and him in a Denver Bronco uniform. He did mention that, obviously, again, this week, not last week. So it's not something that's like we didn't get a chance to touch, obviously, last week. So what's your guys' takeaway on that?
I'd say that saying somebody's an integral part of our future and what we want to do doesn't necessarily mean we're doing it with him. First of all, I think he's going to keep all of his options open. Jerry Jeudy could have been had potentially at the deadline if the ask was met. A 3 and a 5 wasn't enough to get the job done, and that's what was on the table, I think, from the Panthers, maybe. Maybe I'm misremembering that. But,
I think the package was right. I don't know if they ever reported the team.
Okay.
Unless I missed it.
3rd and 5th.
Yeah, that's what was on.
But,
allegedly.
But I will say that regardless, he is a Bronco for the rest of the season. We do have a 5th-year option, so we do have his rights for next year. He could potentially be wide receiver 1 for us. I'm not leaning either way on that, depending on how money goes and all that stuff. But Sean, Payton had to say that, right? Anything else that he could have said would have completely taken away all the steam that we've gotten from the last 2 weeks and the wins that we've gotten. It's like you have to do that to try to like galvanize the locker room and get them to believe. We can't have any division. We can't have any guys thinking about how important am I to the team and whatever. He's a veteran coach. He kicks ass in October and November. Just get Payton out of September, and he's like fine. I think he's got a good beat on the team. I expected nothing less from him, but to me, it doesn't really say anything about whether or not Jerry Jeudy is wearing orange and blue next September.
It's because same goes for Sutton too, by the way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say. Is I mean, it's coach speak. Like it just is. He kind of also went out of his way a little bit to just reinforce the fact that we were never shopping him. I don't remember what his exact quote was, but it was something about like ask the team, like ask the people that are actually calling, because like we weren't shopping. I mean, but like we would listen if they called. But anyway, going back real quick to that offer of a 3 and a 5, that's interesting to me because like I don't know what they were wanting to get for him, but if it's more than a 3 and a 5, like I've there's a couple ways that like I interpret that.
I think I know where you're going with it.
Well, part of it actually, Josh kind of actually brings up here in that if you believe in this offense and what they're now putting together in this mini run, do you think if you keep him, one, you're helping the offense at least continue this run, which at the time it was only, I believe that one game win, but whatever. And you like, obviously don't take away an entire receiver from this, but you also maybe have the mindset of if we continue on this path and he's given more of a platform or chance to kind of show out a little bit, you can maybe get even more from him at the end of the season, and you're trading him after the season as opposed to trading him mid-season. If you think that he like you maybe either you believe in him enough to, and this could be one of two ways. This could be you believe in him enough to like say, yes, this is our guy, or you believe in him enough to be like, hey, I know he can play better than he's been playing. Like I know who this guy is. I'm still maybe wanting to listen to offers, but I think if I give him the rest of the season to put more on tape, because I think we're going to be doing some more stuff here, that they could get more in return after the season.
Yeah, and I just think given the 3 and a 5 offer, I will be honest, that is actually a pretty nice offer,
and that's also true.
Like it is a pretty nice offer, and I know we mentioned it before, but maybe the reason why they didn't deal him was they also wanted to do right by Jeudy. I mean, because think of the history here too, in terms of what George Payton was able to do, what some of these people were able to do for players that they shipped off to other teams, right? So they traded Bradley Chubb to the Miami Dolphins. You can question the contract extension that he got and whatever, but he still got paid. So the Broncos did right by him, sending him to Miami, and then thus getting the contract. And we all know that the indirect part of that is, of course, the first-round pick resulting in Sean Payton. But Von Miller is another prime example. We'll obviously end up talking about Von Miller in the show. Hence Matty's caption here tonight that says, I miss Von. They traded Von Miller to the LA Rams, and, the LA Rams won a Super Bowl out of it. And then, we all know the damage and the unfortunate situation that happened with Randy Gregory, which ironically is tied to Von Miller. That's not my point. But my point is just that Randy Gregory was a good enough pass rusher that they decided to also do right by him, ship him off to San Francisco. So I think in closing on this, I think that it's really important that maybe the 3rd and a 5 was necessarily more in the vein of the actual team. So maybe it was the Panthers, right? Maybe it was the Panthers. But maybe Jeudy, and I'm not trying to say this is bad on Bryce Young, but I think maybe Jeudy in his future wanted to play with, say, a contending team, at this point, and there was just some say between everybody that was like, oh, let's trade him over to a contending team, and that never happened. And the other point that I think
can also be true.
The other point that I think that needs to be made is that this also proves that the Broncos were in fact holding true to their initial offers of Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy in this last offseason, right? Because so much had been made that, about because you were hearing fluctuating stuff between stuff of like, Jerry Jeudy's worth either a first round pick, second round pick. Cortland Sutton was a firm second round pick, right? And the Broncos very obviously didn't get any of that in the offseason, and they didn't get any of that in this trade deadline. And so maybe that's again twofold, that the team that they are trading him to don't necessarily feel like he's worth that first round pick, or that Sutton's worth that second round pick. But still, I think that there's also, to what you mentioned, Brandon, to bring that into focus too, is that maybe the Broncos are, if they didn't deal him for that third and the fifth, seeing him in the vein of in those future plans. But again, I still think it's status quo from this. But it was the same as the same vein that it's like, this is the first time that he's actually, said anything about Jerry Jeudy in correlation, to the future of it. So, but I think it's status quo. We will definitely be seeing, I would imagine, a lot transpire in the next coming weeks on this. So,
also, that was a misclick. I didn't realize that would chat out as everyone, so my bad. But yeah, they actually did beat the Cowboys, like pretty much 2 days after the trade. But then after that, they lost, 3 straight. So maybe Randy Gregory was the curse. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to completely flood the chat there. That's my bad. But that's a funny question there by Josh. If the Niners won a single game since getting Gregory,
which they had, which
they did, and
yeah.
then they lost every other one.
By the way, speaking of midseason recap, it is worth talking about something in this organization who once again decided to put the Jeudy Manziel, stuff into motion. They spent some money, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about it on the 5280 podcast, but guys, your opinion, they dropped money.
$175 million
on a upgrade to the new facility down there in Dove Valley. Sadly, Matty is not close to that new facility, but both Brandon and actually Brandon's not close. He's definitely close in correlation between he and Matty.
I'm in the state.
But he's in the state. He's in the state. So
I have questions. What does that mean for training camp? Is training camp going to continue to be free?
That was my first reaction.
Is there finally going to be shade at said training camp for fans that want to hang out and watch? Because traditionally, right, you hang out on the hill in the sunshine and get baked, and that's about it. Are they doing anything that's fan friendly for that?
So I have 2 opinions there, and they both are related. Clearly, this team has money. We don't need to charge fans to go to this shit. They're swimming in cash.
They have all the fun.
It was the epic return of Zan on Twitter, basically with the Greg Penner group to the rest of the league. Stop being poor.
Yeah, stop being poor.
That was legendary. Yeah, they do not need to charge for people to go to training camp, because damn. But then also, you'd think that they would also then have the money to put up some form of shade for their fans that do go, so that they're not in pain and misery the whole time. But you never know.
Well, and I'm curious, in terms of the amenities, right? When this is something we talked about on the 5280 podcast, but obviously they took a flyer in terms of a survey. They took a survey about all the different, teams and leagues and getting an idea as far as how to make the best possible facility. It's the exact way that they did it for possibly a new stadium or upgrading a new stadium, the stadium that they currently have. But I'm curious about the amenities. And what was interesting is they didn't say NCAA, but we know, Matty knows, Brandon knows, there are NCAA football team facilities that are in very close proximity to what the NFL have. And so I would imagine, that they definitely took some bit of a survey from there. And I think that, it would be interesting, to see where that is into it. And as far as the fan viewing, seems like maybe that's going to change, because it used to be you were on the hill, and now it seems like the fan viewing is going to end up being on the side. So like if anybody's been at training camp lately at Dove Valley, there was the tented area, right? The VIP area, the VIP tented area, which is also where media were. I think that side area is going to end up being where the fan viewing will be. But they do have some seating, right? Like that was, if you looked at what they were projecting in 2026, they did have some seating. And now, is that going to end up being the VIP area? I don't know. And the other thing too that I have
some like full on bleachers with like
it didn't look like
and
it didn't look like full on
cup
bleachers.
holders, and I'm kidding. I'm saying they should do that. Fun.
But the other question that I have is, with the amenities and with what they put in there, I don't know how big of a living space that would be, but what would that mean for the rookies? Like, do the rookies live in there? I mean, like, because we know that the rookies probably live rather close to Dove Valley, right? So, I mean, like, is there rather living quarters within it? I don't know. So, but it's going to
I am interested to see, like, I mean, obviously it's not until 2026, but I would assume that they're going to do some kind of tour production of it. And I'm interested to see like what all is in there, because it looks very
incredible.
large. Like, I don't know what all they're going to put in there, and then what they're going to do with the old facility that's kind of right next to it. But there's got to, like, anything you could think of, I gotta imagine it's going to be in there. Like, they're bringing out the big bucks. They're backing up the Brinks truck, because it's not even a Brinks truck for them. It's like that jar that you have in your living room that you kind of like toss a couple of dollars into every day just to kind of save that up. That's all they're using. That's like literally the budget for this, because that Walmart money. But I'm really interested to see like, what all exactly ends up being in that. And I just got to imagine when they do unveil whatever their plans are for, like, if it's a new stadium or what it's going to be, that thing's going to be like the best in the NFL. Like, they're going to blow so much money on that thing. And I say blow, I mean, it's invest, but like, they're going to spend, if they're spending that much on turf, they're spending that much on like this training setup. I got to imagine if they're going to do anything with the stadium. And I know there's been like some concepts and things going out there about like what they would do, but it's got to be massive from just how they seem to want to spend on this team.
And something else to consider, there was fear when they first took over the sale and they took over responsibility of the team, that there was a timeline, there was a possibility that they could potentially relocate the Broncos. Every single decision they've made thus far has cemented their loyalty to the city and to the state. They've upgraded the current stadium. They replaced the field for one game that did not matter, right? Because they cared about the player safety. $175 million project in the state. Like, it's just, they're staying in Denver. If there are any alarmists out there that think that the Walton Penner Group is going to try to move the team at some point, we have literally zero evidence to back that theory up.
They may move
everything
the
is
stadium,
pointing,
but this team's staying here.
Yeah.
I don't even know where they move the stadium to, but I know that that's what
and rumors, of course, DIA, which from a tourist perspective and flying in, that's fantastic for people that are driving there that are locals. RIP. The traffic is going to be
they got the money. Put like an underground secret like super highway that just goes over there.
Well, DIA's already got all the weird underground.
Then we'll just have to skirt around the Illuminati base.
Or they put it over here in Castle Rock, which we all know Castle Rock is booming. And I don't mean to say this from a biased point of view,
Sure, yeah.
but certainly, put it over here in Castle Rock. You could kind of put it around like where the meadows, right by Red Hawk Ridge, kind of like in that open area. They could put it over there, and it would save a certain person, traffic from driving the games and so on and so forth. So Josh Steele mentions
no, because then you're gonna mess up my golf course. It's
about
gonna be in Kansas next to the airport. Oh hell no!
Yeah,
That'd be underground like SoFi if it was close to you.
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting for sure. But I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with that. Yeah, it'll be fun. I know. I mean, it's like a big project. It's not gonna be there for like 3 years, but.
I think the most important thing, and this is a comment that we made on 5280 though, and it's a comment that if Pat Boland was still alive today, he would be signing off on nearly every single thing. So Matty, you touched on it.
Pat Boland would roll up with a hard hat and be like, "Tell me what to do."
But my point was, so that kind of.
I know.
Yeah. My point though is just that Pat Boland would absolutely be signing off on what they're doing, because Pat Boland was a big proponent of making this team better and furthering the performance, whether it's in the weight room, in the health and medicine environment, or in the cafeteria, or just the overall environment that helps make that football team better and the overall performance. Pat Boland signed off on 100%. And that's exactly what the Walton, Penner group has definitely done. And so I think that, and to go back to it, that's the most important part, is that every single person that is a part of, say, the ownership or ownership group, maybe except for Melody Hobson, the wife of George Lucas. I mean, maybe she has ties to Colorado in some form, but Condoleezza Rice, Carrie Penner, Greg Penner, the Waltons. I mean, Penners, of course, they all lived in Colorado before, before even taking the ownership, right? Which is so funny too, because if you even contrast it to what has been happening if you contrast it to possibly like what's been happening with the Washington Commanders and Josh Harris, it almost makes you wonder if Josh Harris was going to end up doing the exact same thing, because Josh Harris is literally laying his own groundwork for Washington, like in the initial plans, not just in the roster construction, but possibly like in the advancement for Washington in general.
Yeah. It'll be fascinating to see what that turns into. So any other, like, as we obviously hit the midseason, let's kind of go back to, because it feels weird. Like, it feels weird that we're somehow like pretty much halfway done with the season. Did the season go to this point better than you expected, worse than you expected, or kind of on par? And I feel like this is an interesting question to ask after these past two games, because if you take away these past two games, we are not on this 2-game winning streak. We don't break the streak against the Chiefs. Like, my answer is it's catastrophically worse. But I don't know what I think right now. Like, what do you guys think? And people in the chat too, like, hit me with your opinions here. What would you say, not to give a grade on it, but halfway through the season, like, what's your reaction?
Matty, why don't you go? It's been a bit.
So the Broncos program, if you want to call it a program, as Pat McAfee would call it.
Program.
We've been reduced to this, right? Rivalry games. Beating the Chiefs is like finally, like, Michigan, for whatever, sign stealing, whatever, like, remove that. But Michigan finally beating Ohio State after getting punked for like ever, right? Like, Harbaugh was going to lose his job if he did not beat Ohio State. It didn't matter about winning a conference championship. Didn't matter about getting in the college football playoff. Just beat Ohio State. And he finally did. And that bought him more life. Now we'll see how far the khakis get to go with, him stealing like copies from Kinko's or whatever they do to print the signs out. Anyway, like, that's what we've been reduced to, and that's a success. But I expected so much more out of this team. I didn't expect a loss to Vegas week 1 and Washington. I did not expect us to suck at home as much as we have. The Jets, like that game was circled, and then we thought that's an easy dub when an Achilles goes out like 3 minutes, into 3 literal minutes into the football season. And then Hackett like coaches his best game of the season that game. And now he's getting like 6 yards per first drive all season.
He's back to the same old Hackett.
Like where he can't hack it. And it's just like, it's ridiculous that we've lost the games that we have. I know we had injuries. Everybody's got injuries, but it's been a highly disappointing start to the season. But there are 17 games in the NFL season now, not 16. And the Broncos are sitting at 3-5 with a very, very fortuitous part of their schedule coming up. There's a lot to be hype about. And even Buffalo, which I'm sure we're going to get into a little bit soon, looks very beatable. Like Josh Allen looks almost like the guy that took all the criticism coming out of college. Highly inaccurate, poor decision-making, all those things. He's not running like he used to. So there are a lot of things to be excited about. There's a lot of optimism to be had. But there is no chance that you could take anyone from Broncos country who's even the most sound realist, right? Like a Zach Seegers, and say that it's been anything short of a disappointment. Like, I just don't, I don't know how we could drop those games that we have early on in the season and say otherwise. Russ has been great, and he's gotten crapped on a lot in the national media. Good Morning Football can go back to bed for all I care. Like, it's just ridiculous to me, the amount of slander that Russell Wilson's gotten. Certain alumnus or former colleague, Miss Kay Adams, seems to like what Denver's doing, has been giving Russ some flowers. Maybe she was onto something. Maybe she carried that program for a long time, and now she's up and at him. And that's what her show's called, Up and
That's
At
literally
'Em.
what her
I know.
And it's great. So I say all that. It long answer or short answer, long, whatever. It was bad. It could be getting better. It could be really good.
Yeah.
The thing that it just sits there. You have to stew in it. Is what if Vance Joseph was allowed to call his defense from day one? And it's insane that I said that sentence. What if this professional football coach was allowed to do what he wants to do? That just is borderline unacceptable to me. Because I was right there on that fire Vance Joseph train. Vance Joseph is a horrible defensive coordinator. Vance Joseph sucks. Like, get Vance Joseph out of here. Like, I 100% will say that is very biased based on our experience within the last time he was in Denver. But, and again, I don't know with any certainty how much of this was an impact. I know, like, obviously there's been personnel changes that have happened. We got Baron Browning back, who has been an absolute monster. But it just seems to me like there's a very perceivable path where we're 5-3. Like, we win the Raiders game, we win the Commanders game. I don't know about the Dolphins game. I think they still would have beat us, probably not 70-20, but I still think they probably would have beat us. The Jets, that's a whole who knows conversation. Like, Breece Hall is still very good, even if we kind of like clamp down on him a little bit more. But just like, I don't know, it just seems weird to me that it's like a tale of two halves in the sense that, and ironically now we're at the halfway point of like just how bad we looked in the beginning of the season, defensively specifically, and then how good we've looked since then. And it's a what if for me. I'm still pretty disappointed in just the year as a whole, but again, offensively, I think has been pretty okay. Although I have been a bit on I'm not trying to hate on Russ, but like I do think there's been.
Oh, he so hates on Russ, Matty.
I'm not hating on Russ.
He
Bruh,
hates him. Like
shut up.
he's got like this like Santa Claus list, and like and Russ is on the naughty list. I mean, like it is.
I know where you live.
Are you? Wait. I'm getting very heavy Billy Madison vibes with the guy with the lipstick. Is that you? You have a people to kill list? Like, sure glad I called that guy. Like,
You're on it now. And like, you know, I do think he's kind of made some mistakes that
He says kind of
has just been but he has. Like, he's been the quarterback that he's turned into. He's been a bit of the quarterback that we had last year. He's been a lot better. I will say that he absolutely has been better. But the holding onto the ball too long, taking sacks they shouldn't be taking, that whole thing, and again, to go back and look at it, there are plays where like it looks like he held the ball too long. You go back and watch L22 and just literally no one is open. But I will say I do think he's been a lot better. I'm still not completely sold that it's like he's still not getting older. I'm sorry, he's not getting younger, he's getting older. And he's like, I don't think he's going to magically become an elite pocket quarterback because he's never been one. So I do still have some reservations there. I still think we need to at least look for and have some kind of replacement plan. Maybe that's we still draft someone this year and we sit him. Maybe that's like just start to look at it. But I will say he has been better. But yeah, as a whole, I do still think this season has been disappointing. But and we'll get into maybe that's even the next topic with the Bills game. I do legitimately also see a path here forward where there's a lot of games on the schedule that I can realistically see us winning.
Yeah.
From here on out. And we could turn this thing around pretty quickly. Like, this could be one of the craziest seasons in the NFL where you see, okay, first 5 games of the season, this was borderline one of the worst defenses we have ever seen in the history of football. And then going into the rest of the season, it is a top 10 unit. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous and also might be what happens.
One touchdown given up to the Chiefs in 2 games.
One of the things that I was going to say as far as just the overall season is I would still stay status quo. I mean, it's kind of remained status quo. The only thing that is a disappointment, and this is continuing on with what you guys have been saying, is the part of it that is disappointing is just from the standpoint of it's really the 2 games that they lost at the beginning part of the year. If they won that Raiders game, if they won the Commanders game, you're talking about a 5-3 difference versus a 3-5 difference, mixed in with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think the reason why there's optimism, and the reason why there's optimism for this is, and this is going to be a layered answer, and it's going to possibly be a winded answer. So to kind of preface this a little bit, but the Denver Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett, if anybody remembers, had a big win. They had their big win, when in London, and then that following week they played the Raiders, and then that week and that game was when they laid the dud, the inexcusable dud against the Raiders, right? The inexcusable dud where they were pretty good in the first half, and it just went like crazy in the second half and just fell off the rails, and they were the same Broncos in the second half, right? With Sean Payton in the building, I don't foresee something like that happening. They could lose the game, but for 4 quarters, you will see a much different Broncos team than you would under Nathaniel Hackett at this particular point in the stage. And in terms of the overall AFC, the reason why this is such a critical point for the Denver Broncos is the AFC as a whole, aside from the Baltimore Ravens, really solidifying, and kudos to Matty, solidifying themselves as maybe like the number one team in the AFC. If you were to tell me that the Kansas City Chiefs and I actually say and the Buffalo Bills were maybe one of the most vulnerable teams, and they were arguably 1 and 2 to begin the season, would be the most vulnerable, and the Broncos have a good chance, I wouldn't necessarily a great chance, but a good chance of beating both of those teams in one season, I would laugh at you because it never seemed possible that the Broncos would have that opportunity. But because they beat the Packers, and yes, they beat the Packers, but then they followed up with what was maybe their best offensive identity in a game against the Kansas City Chiefs in their most complete game to date under Sean Payton going into the bye, gives you enough confidence that they can finish this season as a whole. Now, to tie a bow on all of this, I think this is an interesting comparison. I'm not trying to make the comparison because the best way you can make the comparison is at the very end of the season. But the Detroit Lions, who were led by none other than Dan Campbell, who, as we all know, is a Sean Payton protege. The Detroit Lions crafted and molded their team under a completely different fashion. However, it's a Dan Campbell, Sean Payton-esque run football team, hard-nosed, disciplined football team. The Detroit Lions started at 1-5. Then they got to one.
Dan Campbell. Sorry.
They were they got to be 1-6. Then they finished the year on a hot streak, right? They finished that season on a hot streak and darn near made the playoffs. And right now, in that next year, is when you really saw that team lift all boats and become the team that they are right now in 2023 with Sean Payton. And the fact that you started to see it with 3-5, you're starting to see that blueprint for this team going forward. And then to round it out, I think the Vance Joseph stuff, not to take the player perspective on this, and I'm not disagreeing to what you're saying, Brandon. The side of this that I think is interesting is there's also miscommunication and the fact that, probably getting readjusted to this whole Vance Joseph defense again with the fact that you had Vic Fangio's scheme, the last couple of years. It's almost like getting reacclimated, if you will, to Vance Joseph's scheme. Say they were, I don't know that answer, but say they were running Vance Joseph schemes for week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. I think it could come down to just simply communication, right? So from the player perspective, it could just simply go down from communication, because the moment that Justin Simmons returned and Baron Browning returned to the lineup, and more importantly, Justin returned to the lineup, all things changed for that team. Everything changed for that team the moment that he stepped into the lineup. So,
because he's the one that kind of calls the signals on the defensive side.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also a good point. It's interesting to think about.
What you're saying is right now, if this was a movie, the Broncos would be in the middle of their montage where they figure it out and they come together as a team and all of that good stuff, right? They had the struggle.
Yeah.
Now they're in the montage and they're getting better every week. And then we're going to see how it ends.
I was going to say, what was the famous high school player who was the motivational speaker? They had us in the first half. I'm not going to lie. They had us in the first half. I'm not going to lie. Not
the famous quote, heard around the world.
Yeah. I'm not going to, so this is not a Broncos related stuff, but it is somewhat of a Broncos related thing with Peyton Manning. Big Mike put this in. This is pretty hilarious. On the Country Music Awards, the difference between Taylor Swift and the Jets? And then Luke Bryan goes, Taylor can sell out stadiums.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Good. Did you guys watch the Manning cast on Monday of the Jets game? Jets Chargers?
I did get a chance to see
They literally were just ripping on the Jets the whole time. It was pretty hilarious.
I didn't get a chance to see all of it, but I did get a chance to see the clip of Arnold Schwarzenegger feeding his donkey on the broadcast, or whatever. And Peyton and Eli had no idea what to do in that situation. I did see that clip.
Yeah, it was pretty funny because they were
all right.
Against them. It was hilarious. But anyway, so it's interesting to think about, but we're halfway through the season and we got the Bills coming up next, so we're on to Buffalo.
Okay, Bill Belichick, we're on to Buffalo.
Bill Belichick, you might get fired. Look, I'm just going to say it before anyone else takes it.
I feel like Matty is all of us right now. Just
Matty, you good? Good Lord.
I'm so sad.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
me
so
too.
sad.
That's why I'm drinking. All right. First of all, Von Miller, we'll get to it. I'm just gonna say this right off the top here, so no one else can steal it before me. I legitimately think that we win this game.
Oh, Mr. Negative Brandon Miller over here. No relation to Brandon Miller, the NBA player. You actually think that the Broncos beat the Bills?
Yep.
So are you
bite me in the ass?
Are you teasing a potential NFL picks? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're previewing this game first, so I gotta say it.
Okay.
We'll get into it, but
why don't we get into it now? Because
it's. Do you want me to explain my thought here, or do you guys want to talk about?
You let it off. I mean, you did. You had the kickoff. I mean, you might as well finish.
You didn't want to build up the mystery.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a few things here that are kind of playing into this, and none of them really honestly have to do with Von Miller, although kind of. The Bills' defense, first of all, is very injured. Obviously, Von Miller is kind of coming back from his injury, who's really not looked like himself, to be honest. I mean, I love Von Miller. I think he's I'm not saying he's washed. He's just coming back from an injury. It's hard. We'll see. They lost Matt Milano for the season. They lost Tre'Davious White for the season. I'm trying to find a list of everyone who is specifically on IR, and I can't seem to find it. They lost Kair Elam. They traded for
Elam.
I think why they traded for, I don't know how to pronounce it, which I think is why they traded for Rasul Douglas, who's kind of hasn't done much yet, but he just got there, which was his injury on the injury report, which is funny. Micah Hyde is questionable. It's just that defense is so banged up that I think we're going to be able to kind of score points on them, to be honest. And that's just on the defensive side of the ball. First of all, I think we can run on this team. This is going to be a game where we can probably control time of possession pretty well. We kind of saw some more vintage Javonte Williams against the Chiefs. The more he's been removed from that serious multi-ligament knee injury, the more he's kind of looked a bit more like Javonte Williams of old. Samaje Perine has kind of been around as well, and we're kind of using him a little bit more. Jaleel McLaughlin could go off this game. Jaleel McLaughlin might have another one of those just freaky 45-yard rushing touchdowns. He could have a very good game. I would not be surprised whatsoever at that. And that's just the running game. I think we can pass on this team as well. Again, they're missing some people in the secondary. The pass rush isn't really. It's okay. It's not bad. I would say of the defense, their pass rush is still pretty okay, but it's definitely not at Kansas City's level. And we just beat Kansas City, and this offensive line has been pretty good, especially in the middle. So I do think we kind of match up well here. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is just, again, we talked about it, how well this defense is playing. We go into the bye, we can get a bit more healthy. We have some time to prepare for this game. I know it's in Buffalo, but Josh Allen he's still good. He's still Josh Allen. The problem is they play way too much hero ball. I understand why they do it, because when it works, it's those, oh my gosh, how did he make that throw? Just ridiculous throws that Josh Allen is kind of known for doing. He also has done the most picks in the NFL since he's been drafted, and he just continues to kind of do it. And that's just his thing. He tries to force it in there. He doesn't really want to take what's underneath. He'll throw the deep ball, even though the crosser or the pretty much anything underneath is there. He just wants to go for the deep ball, even if it's into triple coverage. He'll do a rollout and still instead of being Josh Allen, he doesn't really do this as much. Instead of being Josh Allen and running for the first down, he'll be yeah, I can make that throw, and he'll throw it back across his body on to the other hash, and he can make that throw, but he's not really making the decisions that he should be making. He's just making poor decisions and trying to do too much. Part of that too is their running game really hasn't been much. This has kind of been the story of the Buffalo Bills. They don't really have a running game, and it's kind of just Josh Allen. I think they just put too much on his plate, and he's been struggling. And I think he's probably going to turn the ball over again. Justin Simmons could get a pick here. Obviously, Pat Surtain could get a pick here. Jaquan McMillan could get his second pick here.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very interesting to me. This is a defense that I wouldn't want to play right now. Coming off of a bye, no one would want to play this defense right now. And Josh Allen is really struggling. Like the Bills literally, this is actually insane. 17% of their drives in and a turnover.
Yeah. It's
that's my monologue.
It's definitely a big game for the Bills. And actually, just like we said, it's actually a big game for the Kansas City Chiefs against Miami. This is actually a big game for the Bills too, because right after they play the Broncos, you have the Jets, which that is, you could say it, that is a revenge game for Monday night. Then they play the Eagles in Philly. Then they play a tough schedule. Then they play the Kansas City Chiefs after that. Then they play Dallas. So
they have one of the hardest schedules for the rest of the season.
So if they have any realistic shot, and this is because I
out of the playoffs right now. They're literally out of the playoffs.
Well, because I was going to say, to what you layered and described, Brandon, is exactly the keys and takeaways to this game. Like, it's exactly the keys to this game.
I can't tell if Matty's agreeing with us or he's watching the Thunder game.
Right. Both of them.
That's right. If you were to, actually, this for anybody, this is a great point in terms of why Manely Broncos is so much better streamed right now, because this is truly like Manely Broncos without context. Like, if you were to just take like a cropped video of what Matty's doing right now, it would almost feel like Manely Broncos without context plus the commentary. But what I was going to say is that this is a big game for the Bills, because we also know, they did it against Tampa. Is they play down to their level of competition. But also that if they do play down to their competition, or they play a next opponent, sometimes they have the possibility of also putting 50 on the board, right? So you had them lose to the Jets, right? And the time after they beat the Jets, was when they went on that huge scoring run. 38 points against the Raiders, 37 points against the Commanders, 48 points against the Buffalo Bills. And then at that point, that's when the Jaguars beat the Buffalo Bills in London. So I think it's just like, it's very possible the Broncos do beat the Bills. And
the Patriots beat the Bills. The Patriots are
the Patriots beat the Bills. So it's just like, there's times where you just don't know. I know that there's an argument for you don't know what Broncos team is going to show up. We also don't know what Buffalo Bills team is going to show up.
Honestly, I think the Buffalo Bills team is more volatile you don't know what's going to show up than us.
Well, and so I think that the thing that is so surprising, and you touched on it, is the defensive line. The defensive line, the front seven, was supposed to be a stalwart of that Buffs defense, right? You had AJ Epinesa, you had Ed Oliver, you had Von Miller, right? I mean, like, they had everybody, on that defensive line that were just absolute monsters, right? And it's just not really amounting to anything, right? And Tre'Davious White goes down. You trade, and you make a trade for Rasul Douglas, right? You make that trade for Rasul Douglas, who I'm sure he would want a rematch for the game that he had, when the Packers played the Broncos at home. So, I mean, but there's just times where, and you said it perfectly, the Broncos have to be able to establish their identity. They have to establish their identity of running the football, playing controlled play clock. If they can control the play clock on that, then they will find themselves in very advantageous and favorable situations to win this football game. Now, can we expect the Broncos to do and duplicate exactly what they did against Kansas City? I don't know. But if, and I say if, they duplicate exactly what they did against Kansas City, they can't just beat Buffalo. They can beat anyone in the NFL when they play like that. And that's both of what they've been able to do on the offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball.
Matty, any
You
come up for air?
Yeah, I'm ready. As the Thunder might squander a 12-point lead with 3 minutes to go in the game overall. It's minute 27-point lead and Mitchell at the line. Anyway, all right. Got a couple of things to say. I agree. If we play like we did defensively both games against Kansas City, I think we could be fine. Now, obviously, the second game, we found number 87 a little easier, and we covered that guy.
And plus, Taylor Swift wasn't in the crowd.
Justin Simmons is playing out of his mind right now, just like Chet Holmgren with the putback dunk to put us up. And something else to consider, the pass rush is getting home, which only makes our secondary stronger.
Dude, Browning is ridiculous.
Browning's a stud. Cooper's a stud. The Ohio State connection is incredible. Nick Benito, Boomer Sooner, I don't say that a lot these days, apparently, is doing great. But Justin Simmons is going to get an interception. I agree with that. That's going to happen. Josh Allen's going to have a little too much dip on his chip, and he's going to be trying to hit Gabe Davis, and Simmons isn't going to have it. Browning's going to strip, going to get a strip sack on Allen. That's going to come at a critical point in the game to ice it. The Broncos are going to win by 3. I don't know what that score is going to be. My gut tells me something like 27-24. But I think that's what's going to happen as Allen's getting ready to try to do something at the end of the game. Browning's going to strip him. That's going to be all she wrote. Love that we're getting back to the running game. And I love that we took a couple of shots to Jeudy. Jeudy didn't get a lot of targets, but that catch he had downfield, where he basically said, "I'm a big boy and I play big."
Yeah.
You know, I make
on
big boy moves.
On Sneed.
That was insane. I need to see more of it. I think Payton comes out early and hits him for a long ball deep to see what happens, right? To get those safeties to play back. I know they want to run a lot of too high shell, but they could alter that a little bit based on how run centric we were last week. I think we can get him in a look. I also agree with the McLaughlin take. McLaughlin is going to take a screen pass over 30 yards, and it's going to be critical. It's going to be on the right side. They're going to think they got McFlinchy beat. He actually allowed it. It was an intentional thing instead of just him getting beat in the pass rush like normal. And the pass goes over the top, and their McLaughlin goes with guys in front. Payton's had 2 weeks to scheme for this thing.
Yeah.
He's going to be ready. We're going to see some stuff we haven't seen yet this season. And I'm very excited about it. Like Russ, dude is legit cooking. He's actually cooking. His yards aren't through the roof, but dude is scoring touchdowns. Drives are ending in points. And you got to have that against a team like Buffalo, even if they're turnover prone. So we're going to get up a little early. We'll give up a little bit in the middle. Then we'll ice it at the end. 27-24 is my prediction on this game. Potential unsung hero, though, will be the middle linebacking core and their ability to keep Josh Allen home. I do think we're going to spy a little bit. Allen's going to try to run probably, but the defense has been playing lights out. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of the same. I agree with what you said earlier. If you would have said, beginning of the season that we'd have a chance to beat Kansas City and Buffalo in this season, like you would have called them crazy. What if I told you in back-to-back games we have a chance to beat Kansas City and Buffalo?
Yeah,
I think we can. We're playing that
on prime time as well. On prime time.
It's the prime time thing. Everybody's like, "Oh God, we got to see the Broncos play on prime time again." Well, keep sleeping.
Well, and you play like the way they have. They've earned the right to be on that primetime game with Buffalo.
Well, and people are saying bye-bye to us in the season, but in the words of the great Geno Smith, we're not waving back. So,
who, by the way, is not playing great. by the way.
Booty cheeks.
There's a very interesting rumor going around on Reddit that I have no knowledge of if it's true, but the rumor is that DK Metcalf punched Geno Smith.
Oh,
No idea at all if it's true, but that's insane. Anyway, Cam, any other thoughts on the Bills?
So I think that if we're going to look based on like say player on player matchups that I would be specifically watching for, or as far as like the idea of, I don't necessarily know if this is something that Vance Joseph, or even the coaching staff is something that is scheming. You'd have to, you basically have to play your, chess and checkers moment with this. But I would like the idea on the designed plays or the plays where you feel like you could use a QB spy on Josh Allen. I think that's where a guy like a Drew Sanders could be really helpful on a guy like Josh Allen. I think that with his ability to have that speed in the sideline to sideline attack to get to the quarterback. I mean, we said it before with him, but again, like the play that always sticks in my mind is his sideline play in college to Bryce Young, and Bryce Young is not a slow quarterback by any means. And so I think that from that point of view, it's one of those that kind of matchup is one that I'm really intrigued about. And Matty, you talked about it. It's something we didn't get a chance to talk about, but with the preview of the Buffalo Bills game, it's appropriate we have this conversation too, and it's one we haven't had necessarily an in-depth conversation about. But I don't think it's out of the question that we see a little bit more involvement from the target's perspective to not just Cortland, not just Jerry Jeudy, but that Boomer Sooner wide receiver, Marvin Mims. I think that the Broncos, with the fact that they also had this bye week, you also may see more of a ability that, in terms of Marvin Mims being able to take the top off that Buffalo Bills defense and use him a little bit more. And so if you can use him not on those reverses, dang it, P. Ryan, but I just think that like there's ways you can utilize an explosive player like that that's not on screenplays. Like a crosser, across the middle or something to get him, rather wide open, on something like that, which is a play that I think they ran a few times. So, getting him in creative situations and open, I think I really think that there's a chance where you do see a fair amount of balanced targets across the board for Sutton, Jeudy, and Mims in this game against Buffalo. Because especially with the way that Sean has not just talked about the Jerry Jeudy stuff, but if it's true, and again, if it's true with what he feels about Marvin Mims, and he kind of loses sleep at night about Marvin and trying to get him more touches, if he actually believes that, let's see it. I've said so often, words are meaningless if there is no action behind it. Let's see that action. Let's see that action take place, and let's see that unfold with Marvin Mims more in this offense.
Coming out of the bye week and not realizing you need to find ways to get Marvin Mims about the football more is like coming out of a timeout and having too many men on the field. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Come on.
So I'm definitely here for it. There's ways that you can be creative and, use that to your advantage. So I'm really looking forward to it. But if there is so I will say this. I mentioned it on the 5280, but now we can at least talk about this a little bit more. Obviously, this game will mean a lot for Von Miller. This game will mean a lot for Von Miller. And I somewhat joked on 5280 that this is a game where, hey, if Vaughn is offsides, 5 times during the game, I'm okay. It'll also bring back so many memories of him jumping offsides in that orange and blue. It'll be the famous Leo DiCaprio meme where he's sitting on the couch. He goes, "Whoo, see, I remember that." But I'm really looking for. I know that we had the conversation earlier about Baron Browning. I am so looking forward to seeing what Baron Browning's going to do in this particular game, because I think, and again, if you do a player-by-player comparison with Baron Browning and Von Miller, look, I'm not the only one that has been saying this, but like it truly feels like you're watching a spitting image of Von Miller, the way he rushes the passer. A great clip of this is a guy who put on Twitter today, actually, a pass rush play against the Green Bay Packers where he truly dips underneath the left tackle of the Green Bay Packers, and that literally looked like Vaughn. And of course, with his rush to the the inside of the offensive line, right, like to get to the quarterback on a free lane, like that happens so often with Von Miller in his career with the Broncos, and sometimes even when he's been with LA or even with the Bills. So like he's done stuff like that it's like it really makes you wonder, just like, has he truly mirrored what Von Miller has in his career? I think we even heard some stuff that he went to one of his camps. I don't know if it was his pass rush camp, but he watched and learned from Von Miller a lot. So Baron Browning specifically is someone I'm really looking forward to.
That'd be fun for sure. And I'm pretty sure Von Miller said this somewhere, that he doesn't even consider it a revenge game. Like,
yeah, I tweeted that from his stream.
Von Miller is always a Bronco in his soul.
Bro, what were we thinking? Yep, signing freaking Randy Gregory instead of just bringing back
who's
Von
no
Miller.
longer on the team.
So, yeah, and I guess
that's just an L.
And I guess so Matty, and I hate to pour salt on an open wound right now, but I guess also on that stream where he did say that there's no ill will to Denver, he would like the idea of sacking Russ, which, by the way, how ironic and and crying would it be is that Von Miller gets his first sack of the 2023 season against the Broncos. It's against Russell Wilson. I mean, like that would be.
We did not get a chance to play in the Super Bowl that never existed.
Right.
So
yeah. So I mean, like, there's a lot of emotions that's going to be wrapped up into this game. And as far as like the contract stuff, he mentioned again, it's salt on the open wound, Matty. He mentioned that he was hoping the Broncos would call him in that offseason. And he didn't, or Payton didn't. But I will say there's a little part of me that's like, would he have taken less? We don't know that answer. I think it's easy to assume that he would have. That it's easy to assume that he would have taken less. But we have to remember the deal that he did sign in Buffalo, right? Because like the deal that he signed in Buffalo was like Johnny Manziel, right? Again, he brought in the money with that Buffalo deal. So there was no way the Broncos were going to be incorporating that kind of deal for Von Miller, especially. But like, could he have taken less? I think it's easy to assume. Like, could he have taken less? I don't know. But that kind of deal that he did sign in Buffalo would almost suggest that the Broncos obviously weren't going to go there. So,
yeah,
but it wasn't.
It's a mistake. Go ahead.
It was $85 million for Gregory, right? And it was like
5 for $70.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 85. Vaughn got like $5 million more a season or something, less than 5.
615 or something.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, but Randy Gregory literally did basically nothing in a Broncos jersey.
Yeah.
Like, to bring back the guy that's like the most prolific defensive player the Broncos have ever had, who could have been somebody that was a catalyst for the next wave of youth that we had. Like, he's the only person in the building that knows what it's like to win. Like, so frustrating. Such a missed opportunity. And I think that that's one of the many things that could end up forcing Broncos country to move on from George Payton at the end of the season.
It's possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible.
What percentage, guys, what percentage chance do you have that George Payton is back as general manager of the Broncos next season?
I think it's 50-50 for me.
Depends on how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah. But one of the underrated part of it that is going to keep George Payton is Nick Bonito is playing fantastic, which that was the George Payton draft pick. But I think that from the point of Von Miller, I obviously has no ill will. I actually firmly believe, and this is I'm putting myself, in the Futurama time machine. I'm going in time, and I'm actually forecasting that after his contract is up with the Buffalo Bills, whether that is after this season, because who knows, if they have such a really bad season in Buffalo this year, they could just offload everybody, right? Just start anew with a lot of those players. If they offload a fair amount of people in Buffalo, I think Von Miller comes back in Denver. I really do.
You think he's still going to be playing after that? I think at the very least he signs a 1-day deal and retires a Bronco.
Bro, but I think it could be a 1 year or 2 year deal with Denver, and then he signs the 1 year or the 1 day deal and he retires a Bronco.
I guess it depends on just how much he really wants to win another ring, which I can't blame him. But I would not be surprised.
He's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Well, totally. Yeah, but that's different, right? Like winning a ring. Excuse me. He's already a Hall of Famer, but he wants to go out with another ring, and I can't blame him. I mean, obviously I don't know personally, but I would have to imagine that he does. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there, because I don't know if he's going to get that in Buffalo. I know we're obviously more of a Broncos focused podcast, but let me just throw this question out there. The way they're currently constructed and with what you've seen right now, do the Bills win a ring in the next 5 years?
5 years? I don't know. I don't know that.
Just give me your gut reaction.
No.
I say it's a 6% chance they even make the Super Bowl.
That's very specific. 6%?
Yeah.
You said gut. That's the number that came out.
I'll take it. I'm just curious because I don't know. I can't tell what I think, because I just feel like they've been the same team. These have been their problems. This has been the Josh Allen situation.
Well, it's Buffalo in general. The Bills
since college. He's gotten so much better. He's still a great quarterback. He's still a fantastic quarterback. He makes those plays that no one else can make. He's the closest thing to Mahomes that we have in this NFL. But he just turns the ball over too much.
But it's also the Bills, for some reason, whenever they are really that good, for some reason they just can't get over that hump to win that ring, right? I mean, we all remember when the Bills, went to all those Super Bowls in a row and still never won, right?
4 in a row.
4 in a row, and they never won a Super Bowl in that time frame. You would think
it's tough.
Yeah, you would think that obviously winning a Super Bowl is tough, but you would think after going 4 times that they would at least win. By the way, we have Matty, Canada, in the building again. He said that I think the Broncos move on from George Payton. Matty, Canada.
Yeah, I think, look, my prediction's going to come true. The Ravens are going to be the 1 seed. Burrow's going to still win in the playoffs because Burrow's a stud in the playoffs, and they're going to get back to the Super Bowl. And then that's going to be what? Is that 5 straight seasons that the AFC is represented by Burrow or Mahomes?
Yeah.
Could Josh Allen be the Roethlisberger to the Manning and Brady
I think that's a really
hierarchy
good
in the
My
AFC.
God, man, that would be insane. That's a great question.
But that's what we're looking at, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I love Lamar. I think Lamar. I thought
Lamar
like,
is
he was
Lamar is the wrench.
X factor.
You throw a
But-
wrench in it, it's Lamar.
Yeah.
Like Lamar's a stud, and maybe CJ Stroud in a couple years after that Texans team.
Dude,
gets built
CJ
up,
Stroud, man. Oh my God.
That dude,
Let me ask you a follow-up question when you're done. I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. But seriously, I don't think enough people are talking about Burrow and Mahomes in the same level that they talked about the dominance that Manning and Brady had.
They have been
But
talking
after-
about
But after Burrow gets back to his second
Yeah.
Super Bowl, like they're going to be discussing it at that rate. The only other player that could push through that in the AFC was Ben Roethlisberger. And it's going to be a matter of who is that third guy. It could be Stroud in 4 years. Like, who knows,
Could be Stroud
right?
in 2 years.
I mean, Houston's got a lot of work to do, but like Stroud
Could
has
even be Trevor
lifted.
Lawrence too.
He's lifted them. Trevor Lawrence has to, to keep going, which was a very shrewd MVP pick, and we'll see how like trendy that becomes over the next month because I think he's going to pick up a lot of steam. Brandon, I like it.
Wait, who are you talking
And
about?
Trevor Lawrence and
Trevor
like
Lawrence.
Yeah. the steam, right? He was your MVP pick for the season.
I believe so, yeah.
But like Lamar obviously still gets a vote. Baltimore seems to always find a way to falter in the playoffs, so we'll see. But like Burrow is that dude. Now I say all that because like Josh Allen has a lot of competition to work through. He has a lot of competition to work through, and he's not always the best decision maker. Now, that game against Kansas City, if they would have gotten the football first in overtime, it's a different story. That Bills team would have gone and scored a touchdown, and then we would have seen Kermit the Frog complain about not getting a chance to get the ball in overtime. So, like, that's a little different. I don't want to omit that. I remember that. That's a key nugget to remember. But like, the AFC is stacked at the top at quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, you can look at the NFC and say, is Purdy really the real deal? Are they going to stick with him? Like, I don't know. Prescott's not necessarily the long-term answer.
Who else? Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, 50 feet of crap, and then kind of everyone else to go back to like Moneyball. Like, that's true. The NFC is wide the frick open, but the AFC is on lock. And it goes through and not true lock like we thought it was going to be. But it like Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and they're going to be like battling for the 1 and 2 seed. And like, we're going to have to see who breaks through that veil. I don't know. I don't think Josh Allen and the team as constructed currently can. I think partially because they can't protect themselves from themselves and they can't run the football and they can't play balance. They have to get 65 to 70% pass to run ratio. And like Allen, when he's great, but when he's not, he's really not. I'm a Russell Westbrook fan. I had to deal with that a lot as a Thunder fan. And that's kind of what you get out of Josh Allen. Like, oh, maybe only 2 guys on the planet can make that play, but then something happens and you're like having to defend it. So it's very frustrating, I'm sure, for the Bills. I don't know what they add. I really don't know what they could add at this point besides maybe have done a trade deadline deal for like a Derrick Henry and just feed him.
But James Cook is so talented. They just don't use him enough. He's
talented, but like, I guess they get bored taking a profit when things work, but it's like 2 yards, 2 yards, 10 yards, 2
He's
yards,
averaging almost
3
5
yards.
yards a carry on the season.
Right. But it's because he's like a little explosive and like on that third carry, he's able to pop it and they get impatient and they don't wait enough for that third carry. And then they move on and they throw with Allen, which is like great.
But that's
cover of Madden and all that. But like,
just not using him enough. Like
they're not, but
be the case with any running back.
But are they going to be willing to do that when they're paying Stephon Diggs all that money and Josh Allen all that money? And who knows about Gabe Davis's potential extension and all that.
So are a bunch
stuff.
of other teams though. Like you can't be so one dimensional.
I mean, I agree, but they can't help themselves.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page. We're talking about the same thing.
But yeah, I think that if the Bills do not make any sort of run this year, they blow it up in some shape or form. To what degree, I think that they blow it up. Obviously, there was something that was going down with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. I think that there's something that's going to be transpiring with Buffalo to where they're just not going to be the same team. And obviously,
It could be Sean McDermott.
and it could end up being Sean McDermott as well. Yeah, it definitely could be
just
Sean
don't know if they
McDermott.
get rid of him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see happen.
Yeah, for sure. All right, NFL picks.
Yeah.
Let's go into some NFL picks and Brandon, we per usual are using the ESPN app.
I know.
And Matty, we are doing the NFL picks. All right, so here we go. Let's start first with a game on Thursday, which is one that everybody is waiting for with anticipation and bated breath.
This is the game of the year, man.
It is the game of the year. It is the Carolina Panthers against the Chicago Bears.
This is unironically the battle for the number 1 overall pick, and it's actually hilarious because the Bears have Carolina's pick.
Uh-huh.
And I know like right now it's technically Arizona, but if Chicago really wants to tank, they'll throw this game.
Tyler Bagent.
This
game's not.
Someone made a different pun about him that I can't remember what they said, but it was like absolutely.
This game is not winning any beauty pageants anytime soon.
Gosh.
I gotta go find out what this was.
Here comes Matty and his dad puns again.
So I have a better one. No, secret Bagent man.
Secret Bagent man.
That's it. That's the one. This will be boring. Honestly, I think Carolina might win this because Chicago's defense is pretty bad, and Bryce Young kind of started putting it together a little bit, which would be kind of funny because like if
Panthers.
Carolina wins, the Bears have a worse pick.
I'm going Panthers.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to go Panthers.
This might be the shortest game in the NFL this season when it comes to like overall play time. Like the running backs are healthy for Chicago. Carolina can't stop the run. Chicago is going to continue to run the football, and with the running backs and with their quarterback now, like Cole Kmet's about it fantasy wise. Thielen on the other side, and then like that's kind of about it. It's going to be a lot of short passing and all that stuff. I say all that. I think Chicago wins the game in a way that they would have in the 80s, which is like run the football and play defense. Like Bryce Young's putting it together, but he's still mistake prone. He's still holding on to the football a little bit. I see this game as like a 17-13 final, Chicago.
So 11-10, basically.
Oh, like 49ers Broncos? Got it.
6-9.
By the way, can we
nice.
Can we bring up the fact about how much we appreciate Kirk Herbstreit on Amazon Prime?
He's great.
He is so good. Like, so I'll ask you guys this before we go into the game between the Colts and the Patriots. Do you guys actually have a greater appreciation for Herbstreit now doing NFL coverage of games versus college?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, ball knows ball, right? And I've always thought that he was a ball knower. Even when I didn't agree with his takes, like I could see how he got there.
Yeah.
Like, listen, this is what, like, people like to crap on McAfee, right? Like, he's not everybody's cup of tea. I get it. But, like, Herbstreit knows ball for, like, so many teams in college. And he knows them on a deep level. And he talks about them on College Game Day. And then oftentimes he flies across the country to go do the night game for two teams that they didn't really talk about. And he has to do all that research throughout the week on those teams, right? I know there's 32 sounds like a lot, but there are only 32 teams in the NFL, and there are only really like a handful of teams that truly matter, like on the two deep. Like Herb Street, I think getting his chops on covering college has prepared him way above anything that any other NFL analyst besides maybe Romo, because he can draw up X's and O's better than anyone can. And it's just because like his work ethic and like what he's had to do, and he's been conditioned to do that for decades. So yeah, Herb Street's great. I knew he always knew college ball, and like you would think that they would know like the pro game, but like it's pretty legit, and he's able to like catch things in real time and then bring them up and talk about it on a level that allows us to understand. So
yeah.
Herb Street, I think nationally has like gotten more like credit for how much he understands about the game, both college and pro. But I've been on Herb Street, and
yeah.
I like the fact that he's always like kind of, you can tell that little bit of Ohio State bias, but he holds them accountable when they're not up to snuff.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about him. To stick with like the Letterkenny thing, but like Herb Street is a stud, and I'm glad we're able to see him now in prime time outside of like college football. Now his counterpart, could he seem less interested in the game? Like possibly. The dude just does not care anymore.
Or more, can he be more interested in the game? And that's really the appropriate
like,
question.
Please,
I think
act like you care.
I think the thing for me with Herb Street is, you mentioned it, because he knows so many college players, and he's seen a fair amount of the players that are in the NFL now and called games in college. Like, it's actually made him a better broadcaster because of that. And to that point, it's actually made him objective to the point where, yeah, those players that he saw in college were great college players. But let's leave it at that. Like, let's leave it at that they were great college players, but they just never really transpired, at the pro level. So I really, really do like Herb Street. Frankly, not to the same extent, but it almost reminds me a little bit of Joe Klatt, right? Joe Klatt is finally dabbling a little bit in the NFL game, but he is phenomenal in obviously college, and of course he does dabble a little bit now into the NFL, but Joe Klatt is phenomenal. And the only thing that's different between Joe Klatt and obviously Kirk Herbstreit is Joe Klatt just happens to have maybe one of the best play-by-play guys of all time in Gus Johnson. And everybody in Broncos country knows about Gus Johnson and his Stokely down the sideline.
Oh my gosh. So great.
Yeah.
I was in Italy when that happened, and the ball got like, we were watching games on like AFN and like whatever stream you can find, and it was looking dire. And like Gus Johnson forever will be etched in my mind, like where I was, who I was with when Stokely down the sideline happened, and I went freaking banana sandwich. And then the dude like on Fox Sports, because having to suffer in Big 12 country and succumb to big noon kickoff and all that crap. Like, he's one of the best.
Yeah.
He's one of the absolute best at what he does. People hate him. Just like people hate McAfee. I guess people don't like fun. I don't know. But yeah, legend. He's probably the most iconic, in my mind right now, the most iconic college football guy on TV right now. Maybe it was Musburger in the previous era, but it's definitely Gus Johnson now.
So Brandon has been awfully quiet, so I'm just going to safely assume that he hates Kirk Herbstreit and on Amazon Prime. So I'm just going to safely assume that he just does not like Herbstreit as a color commentator on Prime.
Oh, he's great. I'm watching the Nuggets game on the monitor.
Okay, nice excuse there. Okay, back to reality.
36-32 Denver.
The Indianapolis Colts go up against the New England Patriots. So there's a rumor going around that the Patriots could fire Bill Belichick if they do not beat the Colts, on this game in Frankfurt, which is the second game in a row, obviously in Frankfurt.
I'm not sure that they will. So we'll see how that goes. This Colts
Like-
team is low-key pretty good, even without Anthony Richardson. Like Gardner Minshew, pretty good backup. Like we might see that Bill Belichick is fired because I don't know how the Patriots are going to beat him. They're bad. The Patriots are just bad.
What do they do? Like, where do they bring
Patriots?
McDaniels back to be their coach?
Oh my
Like,
God, that'd be the most Patriots thing of all time. That would be hilarious.
I don't get it. Like,
But they
if you
shouldn't.
go from Billy B, like who do you bring in?
Bill O'Brien.
Lincoln Riley at this point?
Well,
you trade
Can we just
everything
say
away
how
and hope you can get
absolutely
Caleb?
strange it would be for the Patriots organization to exist without Bill Belichick? Like they're gonna have to tear it down and start over, and it's gonna be weird.
Well, Bill Belichick and yeah, I mean, who was their coach when they went to the Super Bowl in '96? No, Pete Carroll had failed after that, right? Who was their head coach then?
was that
Like
It was Bill Parcells.
yeah.
was it?
Well,
Because 2 years later we beat Parcells in the AFC Championship game against the Jets. Huh. Okay, maybe it was.
I'm pretty sure he went
I
from the
digress.
Patriots to the Jets.
Okay.
Let me see. So yeah, he was with the Patriots through '96, and then he went to the Jets '97 through '99.
Okay. So like there we go. Like I stand corrected. So yeah, I mean both of those guys.
It'd be weird.
I'm saying Patriots. I just have this weird feeling that the Patriots are going to get the win. I don't feel confident in it whatsoever. Brandon's got the Colts. Matty, are you going Colts or are you going Patriots?
Man, Colts. Colts are going to tear them a new one.
But obviously, if Anthony Richardson was playing, I would be going Colts like 100%. All right. Now, maybe the sneakiest game of the weekend. The Houston Texans and CJ Stroud and Tank Dell, the guy that I wanted, or one of the wide receivers that I wanted. Tank Dell, we gave Houston so much crap in terms of how they were building their roster, like over the course of, time, like handing out 1-year deals like it was Halloween candy. But like the fact that they were able to be 4-4 now, and oh, by the way, finally open up their 21 injury window without Derek Stingley, their corner, right? The fact that they were able to perform at this level without him speaks volumes to how well they've been able to play. And CJ Stroud is playing at a level, frankly, you hate to say it because it doesn't really come along often, but he is playing at a level that we have, frankly, maybe never seen before. And that's even just off of his touchdown to interception ratio. He is playing at such an exceptional clip that at this point, I don't give a you-know-what about your stupid Ohio State bias anymore. CJ Stroud...
Well, it was stupid to begin with.
No, I know that. But, like, he is playing at an all-time level. And, frankly, he is playing so well right now that I am saying right now that he is in the MVP discussion. And it's not just, like, in the MVP discussion of the top 10. Like, he is borderline top 5 MVP discussion right now with what you're being, put forth on the field. Like, he is playing at such a high level. Dalton Schultz, like, they really did a sneaky good job about building around him with some great, great weapons. And Bill Slowick, is that what his name is? The offensive coordinator for the Texans? That guy is going to be getting a head coaching job in 2024.
And keep in mind, they're doing all this while averaging like 3.2 yards per carry running the football. Like, there is nothing that's able to keep the defense honest. And yet, Stroud just does not care.
This guy Ben Stroud like an idiot.
Um,
So this was my question. What quarterbacks in the NFL right now would you not trade for CJ Stroud?
Mahomes,
Mahomes.
Hurts,
Probably Hurts.
because Hurts does so much. Lamar, probably.
Probably Lamar. Probably Lamar, yeah.
For what they
I don't
do
think
in
you
that,
can go more than 5.
for what they do in that system, I don't know that I could do Tua because of his accuracy in the intermediate passing game.
But CJ in Mike McDaniel's offense.
Oh, I get it, like long term, but like for this season, like Miami has a championship window this year. I don't know that they could do that they could pull the trigger.
You put CJ Stroud in that offense, though, they have a championship.
Like they have a longer window.
They have
I
a
agree.
championship barn door.
Barn door. I love it. Outside of that, it's really hard.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I can
really
say
hard to-
Herbert.
It's hard to
And
like.
I don't know if I can say Allen. I mean, probably.
Like
Likely.
I don't know if I could say Lawrence at this point.
I feel like I could maybe say Lawrence.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, just
That's-
because
that's-
what he means for them and like the comeback win against the Chargers.
Yeah, I
and
think
all
I could
that,
put Lawrence in that. Like, I wouldn't trade Lawrence, but there's not many.
Like, damn, like if you go through like each team.
What about Kirk Cousins?
Oh, easily. And I love Kirk.
Yeah, but what about Josh Dobbs?
Josh Dobbs is being a starter in 2024.
Like,
Sure.
dude, like I didn't have that on my bingo card,
Yeah, no
but
one.
I'm totally rooting for him.
If you were to tell me that Josh Dobbs out of Tennessee would actually be in the NFL for a fair amount of time, but actually turn into possibly an NFL starter at this point in his career, I
It's a great
don't.
story.
Yeah,
He's played for as many teams as Ryan Fitzpatrick already, and he's
Yeah.
still like he still has a starting job. I just
Want
don't
to hear
get
something
it.
funny? CJ Stroud this season has more touchdown passes than Kenny Pickett in his entire career.
Yeah, that is just insane. Matt Canada for the win. So who you guys have?
And Kenny Pickett too. This is a good game. I think it's still the Bengals, but this will be fun.
Bartholomew Mulls.
If you do daily fantasy,
It's
this will
in
probably
Cincinnati too.
this will probably be the most stacked game of the week. T. Higgins, if healthy, isn't going to go under the radar.
They actually have both wide receivers injured. It's Jamar
Yeah.
Chase and Higgins.
Right. Well, Chase is probably out. Higgins is a maybe. Stacker, Boyd, and Mixon. I like Cincinnati here, but it's going to be a shootout. Anything north of like 51 points, you got to take the over, or you got to take the over if it's like 51 points on any sports book you can find.
Yeah. So I'm going Bengals. Are we all going Bengals though?
Bengals.
All right, we're going Bungles. Bugles.
right.
We're going Bugles.
Saints at Minnesota with Josh Dobbs.
I'm going Dobb train. Which is really unfortunate because with no Kirk Cousins, they had a window where it's not looking. Plus, you may actually get Justin Jefferson back.
I don't think he's going to come back this game, but
I
they
said
are
no.
activating him.
It's
to
very
practice.
possible he's coming back for the Bronco game, though.
I was going to say he probably comes back for us.
Of course.
I think I'm also going to take Minnesota.
I'm taking the Saints.
It's in Minnesota.
I take the Saints like 23-20. Game-winning field goal at the end.
That'll be interesting.
So we have the 5-3 Jim Shorts, Cleveland Browns. That's the whole reason why they're 5-3 is because of Jim Shorts. Against the Baltimore Ravens.
The Ravens are hot though, man. The Ravens are on fire.
They're spicy.
I think I can't pick against Baltimore. Even as good as the Browns defense is, I can't pick against Baltimore right now.
They're spicy. San Francisco 49ers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. 49ers a little bit susceptible now. That Randy Gregory trade has really ruined that locker room. I'm joking, but like, this is also going to be the first game of Chase Young as a member of the San Francisco 49ers. Look, they may have been losing games, but they added to that defensive line, and Nick Bosa is now officially reunited with his college teammate Chase Young. And I frankly think that this is going to be Chase Young's place for long term. And I do think the 49ers come away with a win.
The 49ers are just kind of have the yips right now. It's tough. Actually, it's tough. Jacksonville's doing so well. I don't know. Matty, what do you think? This is a hard one.
It is hard. Jacksonville is going severely under the radar for a team with their resume and their record. They're amongst the hottest teams in football. They're doing it all, arguably without Trevor Lawrence's favorite target in Zay Jones. It's weird to say Zay Jones, this guy's favorite target, but all you have to do is watch the game when he's there. Evan Ingram stepped up. Calvin Ridley's kind of taking a step back. We know who Christian Kirk is.
Travis Etienne, we all know who he is.
Well, Travis Etienne has been the Christian McCaffrey of the AFC over the last month of football. What they've struggled with in San Francisco, though, is Deebo Samuel being out. That has been more detrimental to their offense than you would have thought with guys like Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey. And the greatest sufferer of that has been Brock Purdy. So let me walk you through this real quick. Brock Purdy over the last, I'm trying to bring it up. Over the last several games, 1 touchdown passing, 1 touchdown passing, 1 touchdown passing. Against Dallas, 4 touchdowns. He went off. I think that was the Kittle game. And then 1 yard passing. So for the last 5 games, he's only had 1 touchdown passing in a game that's going to be up. Deebo is supposed to be back. Purdy is going to have people put some respect on his name. This is going to be the big win that galvanizes the team and turns San Francisco's fortunes around. People were singing praises of Seattle and like, look at what they're doing in the division and da-da-da-da. This is the week that things turn around and San Francisco is able to get back on track. I like San Francisco in this one. They're going to win by 10.
Okay. Yeah, I got 49ers.
You guys take Jacksonville.
You're going Jacksonville?
Yeah.
All right. So
they're too damn hot, man. They're too hot.
I will say it's definitely a take because but also for Jacksonville's standpoint, if you want to prove that you are on a hot streak, but also prove that you are wanting to be a beast of the AFC, you want to beat a team like that. And so I think if they can be able to do that, you're putting not just the entire AFC on notice, you're putting the entire NFL on notice at that point. So you're going Jacksonville. All right. And then Falcons and the newly starting quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray. He's coming back during the Call of Duty release of Modern Warfare 3. I'm sure that he's really upset about that.
That's so funny.
Dude, that's great.
Matty.
The fact that he's linked to that like forever is so perfect.
Call of Duty is the most overrated game franchise of all time.
Falcons and Cardinals, though.
Oh man, I don't know because I don't know how healthy Kyler Murray. Like I don't know what Kyler Murray is going to look like.
Well,
I think I have to.
I also think you're going to get James Conner back too.
You might get James Conner back. Yeah. I
may go Cardinals.
think I have to take the Cardinals.
Yeah.
This is a forced smile.
It's it's definitely a forced smile. Matty?
Atlanta's offense on paper is so pretty, and yet in reality, it's so freaking gross. Like Bijan Robinson is the best running back prospect.
Did you hear the coach's comments on
that? No.
He's doing more away from the ball.
Yeah,
Bijan Robinson is getting more done away from the ball.
Because you want the most talented running back since Adrian Peterson
to not touch
away
the ball.
From the ball.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you want.
Basically,
Arthur.
He's going to get fired.
Basically, by that logic, that means that Kyle Pitts, who will be a future Denver Bronco in this next offseason.
Oh my God, eggplant emoji.
But that means the Kyle Pitts logic is in that same vein. Whoever would have thought that Johnny Smith would be the tight end that
I'm pretty sure Johnny Smith has the same amount of goal line carries as Bijan Robinson.
You know what? I think he actually has more
on the season.
I think he's got like one more than Bijan has, and I'm not joking.
Oh my God. I think I have to also take let's take the Cardinals.
But speaking of manifestation, I am
manifesting.
I can't even talk. Manifesting Kyle Pitts to Denver this next offseason.
All right. Everyone said Arizona, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Arizona.
So your ESPN is in a different order than mine, but the next one I had is Green Bay at Pittsburgh.
Oh, it is definitely in the wrong order. I think we actually skipped the game anyway, but yeah, Green Bay and Pittsburgh.
Can I pick neither team?
Well, can we just simply say that the fact that this team is 5-3 is kudos to Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin needs to have a statue freaking built of him in Pittsburgh. The fact that he has a 5-3 team with Kenny Pickett, a diva, like a true diva of a wide receiver in George Pickens, I mean, like
this man went through Antonio Brown for like 5 years.
I mean,
this is nothing.
Le'Veon Bell
and Lev Bell.
Yeah,
and Le'Veon Bell. Oh my God.
I mean,
in the same locker room.
The guy needs a dang statue built.
So here's the thing. I love Mike Tomlin, and you're right. But I also am like, think he's slightly holding them back because he refuses to upgrade this offense and get rid of Matt Canada.
But he's still gonna.
But he's still so good. Like, you're not wrong.
Like, in 4 more wins, he will have another winning season.
Yeah, but are they going to go to the playoffs? No.
But still, though, 9-8 is a decent.
It is, but
you're not going to get in. But like, it's
in the toughest division in football.
One of the toughest.
September 8th is
the toughest
National
right
Steelers
now,
Day. 9-8.
By record.
But I'm going Steelers, though, just for the record. I am going Steelers.
I do think they win. I just think they could be 9-8 for the next 5 years, but they're not going to get in the playoffs.
I'm going Packers.
Look at you. You're packing it in. Would you guys actually let go of, this is a separate point, would you guys actually let go of Joe Lombardi and hire Matt LaFleur as OC?
Well, Joe Lombardi is OC in title.
Like,
I mean, probably, but
is anyone okay? Bill Parcells said that he wanted. Speaking of Bill Parcells earlier, that if he was going to be responsible for the meal, he wanted to be able to buy the groceries, right? Which gave him.
That was Bill Parcells. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how he justified being a GM. Well, like being a chef in the kitchen, like Payton is the one that's saying what dishes are on the table, right? Like what dishes are we serving? Sticking with the food analogy. Is there any other head chef that could come in and usurp that? Like, I don't think so.
Okay.
Right. So I really don't think it matters who the OC is. I could be the OC and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, like, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So Sean Payton, if you're listening to this, like,
we're putting our
I
name
can
in.
make, I can make it happen.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I mean, Sean, we're vouching for Matty for a second. If you could just peruse through his Twitter profile and just take a nice little glimpse at his beautiful barbecue photos that he takes every once in a while on his profile. I mean, the guy is like an all-time cook. I mean, I'm just saying, like,
great for team building. Let's go.
I mean, if you need a guy, for team building, and especially if you're upgrading Dove Valley, that guy there in the bottom, he's your guy.
You're gonna need it. You're gonna need somebody. So I'm in it to win it. But the Packers are gonna beat the Steelers this weekend.
I think another game that we forgot was the let's eat banana peels together, including the banana, and drink mayonnaise with our drink coffee with mayonnaise.
Drink mayonnaise? Get out.
Oh, Titans Bucks. Let's do it.
Titans Bucks and Baker Mayfield, 12-4 on the year. Touchdown interception ratio.
It's been pretty decent.
You've been real good.
The Titans have kind of a pass funnel defense. You can't really run on them, but I mean, the Tampa Bay hasn't really been a running team.
Mike Evans.
Solid White.
Mike Evans is 400 yards away, roughly, from another 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, Mike Evans is Mr. Buccaneer. I think it'll be interesting, actually, but I think I'm going to take the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm going Bucks.
Yeah, I'm going Bucks too. Mike Evans is probably going to go for over $125 and a touchdown this week.
Good, he's on my fantasy team.
So play him.
All right. Now
Detroit Chargers.
Yeah, so now we'll go to the Colorado Rockies version of a quarterback, Jared Goff, on the road.
Love it.
Yep. Against the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert in SoFi Stadium. The Rams were so gracious enough to give up their Sunday for the Chargers to play in that stadium. Does Detroit beat the Chargers on Sunday?
It's so.
Go ahead.
It's so funny when you look on the game too. You scroll down, it says game information at SoFi Stadium, and it's got all the Rams stuff on it. It's so great. It's so perfect. The Chargers are going to win because Detroit is a Jekyll and Hyde team with their home and away splits. It's big time. It's weird, but
it's true.
It's
the Jared
there.
Goff home away split is strange.
It's real.
It's insane.
But also the Chargers could definitely charger at
But
home.
the Chargers could charger. Yeah, that's the problem. Is it really home though?
True.
I think I might also take the Chargers just because that Jared Goff discrepancy is so shocking.
I was not kidding when I said he's literally like the Colorado Rockies quarterback in the NFL.
It's insane.
Yeah, the Chargers, who have no fans, and because they have no fans, they decided to put AI-generated fans, on the field. That's so they definitely had to make up for the loss of their fans. So, Chargers will beat the Detroit Lions. The next game is the no longer starting quarterback Daniel Jones and the New York Giants going up against the Dallas Cowboys. I feel bad for Dallas, for the Giants to a certain extent, because they're going to get their butt whooped.
Yeah. They just need to pack it in. They got to pack it in at this point. And Daniel Jones is out for the year.
Ever.
And Tommy DeVito, come on down. I picked Dallas.
Yeah, Dan Quinn is licking his chops like a barbecue meal.
It's bad. Dallas all day. I go back to DraftKings. They're the most expensive defense for a reason. You pay the $4,200, you move on. Dallas. They're going to score maybe 2 defensive touchdowns this week.
Yeah, they might.
All right. And then the Washington Commanders and the Seattle Seahawks, where Geno Smith is 9-7 on the year, 165 for 153, 1,802 yards. Again, 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That is 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Once again for Geno Smith.
For the love of God, stop.
Sorry, I'm just basically just repeating the fact that Geno Smith sucks this year and Russell Wilson does not.
Hey, he's had some okay times.
So Commanders
really. This actually might be interesting because like the Commanders defense is pretty much a shell of itself after those 2 trades, and this might be an okay Geno game. And then also Sam Howell might throw for 450 yards on the Seattle defense. So this might be a low-key shootout. I'm still going to take Washington, but it actually might be kind of interesting in terms of just like it might be actually fun.
Just feed Kenneth Walker, man. The guy had like 16 yards rushing or something.
Yeah, he might have a pop-off game. But is he even fully healthy? I'm not sure.
I'm going Seahawks, though. I'm going Seahawks. I think they do beat the Commandos.
So the way he's played this year, instead of calling him Geno Smith, you could call him Keno Smith. Just because it's been a gamble to rely on him all season. They don't feed Walker enough. They get bored with it. While their defense is flashy and they had the big game against the Giants, which who hasn't this season, like even the Raiders looked dominant against the Giants. The Commanders have been a squad that's like been a tough out for a lot of teams. Sam Howell has been able to put up points. Geno, when he's playing down, makes mistakes. I like what they're doing there. I know what the line says. I know what the matchup predictor says. Seattle is laying 6.5 points in this game, and I know it's on the road for Washington.
Are you going Commando?
Flying across. Well, you haven't seen me from the waist down this podcast, so maybe. The Commanders are flying across country to play this game. I get it, but I'm taking the points for sure. If you're a betting person, but I even think straight up Washington could win this game straight up. So I'm taking the Commanders.
He's going Commando. Okay, he's going Commando. All right. And then do the Raiders win a second game in a row after basically the Rich Bisaccia game, where they basically played really, really well with the coach that got fired? And I say Rich Bisaccia game because if you're a Bronco fan, you should know that all too well. They've let go of John Gruden, and that was the game where they were playing the Broncos, and they laid waste to the Denver Broncos in Empower Field and played really, really well with Henry Ruggs and Derek Carr. It was a great game for the Raiders. But is
there some kind of alternative broadcast where I can watch grass growing versus paint drying?
Nathaniel Hackett against Antonio Pierce.
I think I have to take Vegas just because like they could be okay, but the Jets defense is legit.
I'm going Jets.
But also the Jets offense is horrible.
So
again, can I watch grass grow versus paint dry instead?
What?
So the over-under for this game is 36.5 points. And the line is the Jets by 0.5 point. You know what this is? This is the Las Vegas, not the Vegas Raiders, but like the Las Vegas sports books equivalent of saying, bruh, who cares? It's just like, there's literally nothing to love about this game. It's like, This is like Iowa playing a scrimmage against itself in college football. Like, that's exactly what this is. Like, 24 points. If you give the offense on both sides may not score 24 points. Like, it may be a defensive touchdown here or there. Like, it's going to be ugly. I say all that. The Raiders are going to get a bump here. They're at home. So, yeah, but I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole and betting. It's, it's the Roomba. There's definitely a lot of crap to like have to clean up off the field here. This is terrible.
Right.
The ugliest game I've seen in the NFL in a long time. That's terrible.
So Brandon teased his selection, obviously. If you guys have been listening to the Manly Broncos podcast, obviously you heard that Brandon is predicting a Broncos win over the Broncos. And again, we know we're going a little bit long, but again, we want to just say thank you guys so much for hopping in with us and staying along with us as we go through our NFL picks. We're just having a blast as we do these NFL picks. It's actually one of our longest segments when we've actually done this. But I mean, I will say we're having an absolute blast. So thank you guys so much for staying with us and being in the chat with us. Broncos and Bills. So Brandon is going to go with the Broncos, obviously.
Yeah.
He's going with his heart and his gut on this one. What about you, Matty? Are you going with
I think I said Broncos like 27-24.
27-24, right?
Yep, and they get the strip sack on Allen at the end of the game to seal it.
Okay. So just in the vein of I want them to basically, prove it to me that they can, beat these kind of level of opponents. I also predicted that this would be a loss before the season started. So I'm going to continue that particular trend of a loss there. And I'm going to say that the Bills do beat the Broncos, but I think it's going to be a very close game. And to use the same score as Matty, I think it's going to be 27-24, but it'll be 27-24 Bills. But again, it's so much better when you're talking about a Broncos victory, and a Broncos victory that implies that it is a winning streak, right? It's the famous clip from Major League. If we won 2 in a row, if we win 1 tomorrow, that's called a winning streak. Not 2 in a row, but if you win 3 in a row, it is qualified as a winning streak. So, yeah, it's not.
I never said my score pick, actually, I don't
Yeah,
think. I'm going to say 21-17 Broncos.
21-17. Yeah.
All I heard is that if we win, then Cam's going to go streaking.
That's right.
Through the neighborhood.
And hopefully there's snow on the ground. So
if you live in Castle Rock, stay inside.
All right.
Your kids, had your wife.
The other winning streak reference I was going to say is because it's at 2 right now is mine's it's like Rookie of the Year when John Candy says it's the longest winning streak of the season. 2. I mean, so
yeah.
All right, I'm a big sports movies from the 90s, of course, buff. So anyway, thank you guys so much for hopping in with us. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Obviously, as I said, it went a little bit long, but I'll tell you what, when you guys, chime in and provide the comments, you help make it fun. And we're a family here, obviously, at the Manly Broncos podcast. And we want to say thank you guys so much for hopping in with us. You guys can follow Matty. He is down there on the bottom at Matty Mulls Pod. He misses Vaughn, of course. And Brandon over there on the right-hand side at Brandon Miller PO. The Manly Broncos Twitter account you guys can follow, which is controlled by both Brandon and I now. It is not just me. I'm not like Gollum where I have split personalities and I actually, control things from just the Manly Broncos Twitter account now. So it's both Brandon and I that control things at Manly Broncos. Myself, at Cameron Parker PO, as you see there. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the show. And hopefully on Wednesday, this following week, we'll talk about the Denver Broncos. On Wednesday, we should let you guys know, Wednesday we will not be having a Manly Broncos show because I have an event to go to on Wednesday. However, for you guys, we are not going to be postponing Manly Broncos for a week because that next day, Thursday, same time, same bat channel over on the MHRT network at 7:30 Mountain Time, we'll be doing another show for you of the Manly Broncos podcast. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the show. We look forward to talking with you guys hopefully after another Denver Broncos victory.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never